Welcome to World Unity Week and the Love, Peace, Unity, and Stewardship Room. Thanks to Charles Betterton for inviting us. Good day, everyone. Welcome to a presentation of a vision of the future I've been holding for a very long time. In the last couple of years, a few essential elements of it have developed, and I've invited a couple of gentlemen to speak to you about them. The vision is our Heart Gardens, fondly called OhGs. It's a global network of community gardens inspired by the North American indigenous longhouse. Long ago, each day, the people would come together to decide, with the guidance of elders, what to do and how to take care of the land, the children, and each other. Their culture was based on values of generosity and inclusion. Everyone was a part of the cycles of life, and it didn't cost money to have their needs met. As in rural villages everywhere, children were raised close to the natural world and learned early how to live in harmony. To follow the indigenous example, we need to figure out how to bring the natural world into a new kind of longhouse in our communities. The OhGs pattern provides a way for people to raise good food and good kids in repurposed buildings and other spaces, to shelter vulnerable crops from the weather, conserve water, and work synergistically to heal and grow, connect with the global network, and support people employed by the systems we need. Each place will be different based on location and resources and the desires and passions of those involved. I want to tell you more about the garden part of the concept, but first I want you to hear about two of the essential elements that have developed since the COVID lockdown: the network of other networks and a global channel of education that will enable us to hear, consider, develop, and act together. I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Jim Garrison, president of Ubiquity University. Jim convened the first episode of Humanity Rising at the outset of the global lockdown. We're on the 505th episode. Ubiquity University is built for people who understand that the current global paradigm is unsustainable and to empower individuals who are passionate about collaborative local action. Please say hello, Jim, before I introduce our other panelist.
Thank you, Shannon. Hello, everyone. Charles, Stanley, Heather, good to see you.
Thank you, Jim. I look forward to hearing more. Now I'd like to introduce Stan Pokras, with whom I've worked for 2 years now. Stan was inspired in the 70s by the Whole Earth Catalog, and on day 60 of Humanity Rising, he was inspired again. He'd become curious about the people who made comments in the chat, so he invited everyone to come to his Zoom room after Humanity Rising was done. We had 15 people that first day. I find the title of that session very synchronistic, Connecting the Dots. Stan wants to connect everyone. Stan?
Well, hello, thank you for inviting me. This is my first time being a presenter in a Facebook, LinkedIn kind of Zoom thing, but I'm very happy to be here. And you're right, I heard the words Whole Earth Catalog in 1969, and I'm still on that very same acid trip.
Tell us more, Stan. Can you show us something about other networks, perhaps?
All right.
As Charles says, Stan is the ambassador for the age of helpfulness.
So what we ended up with is the what we call the day page for today's episode of Humanity Rising. And if I click here, I would be seeing the video from this earlier part of things that happened today. If I click here, I'll get to see the after chat, the recording of the conversation we made after Humanity Rising was over. If I click here, I might see some of the people. I may not have gotten to that. No, didn't get to that yet. But let's see, did I get Yep. Okay. I didn't quite finish. But let's go to another day. And let's go to something. We can go to Our Heart Gardens. This is a page on OtherNetworks. Each organization, each thing that I find fascinating or that somebody else finds fascinating is qualified to have a page on OtherNetworks. And it's called OtherNetworks because it's not Google's networks, it's not Facebook's networks, it's our networks, other network that we like. And it gets populated by people who are finding something interesting in the world. And I spend a lot of time on it. So most of the material that's here is something I put here. Now, what we're looking at is Shannon's page called Our Heart Gardens, and it would take us to the website for Our Heart Gardens. It will take us to the business plan that Shannon wrote. And it would take us to Shannon's page. If we click here, we'll see there's Shannon. This is her page. She gets as many pages as she needs to talk about what it is she's doing. So she has the Our Heart's Garden page, and she has the Shannon McArthur page. She also has a YouTube channel. So if I click on this, I would be taken to Shannon's YouTube channel, and we can watch her videos. I'm going to just go back, and we can see each of the people who have appeared on Humanity Rising. If they're in here, which they would be if they appeared on Humanity Rising, we'll have a list of their episodes. So Shannon was part of Thursday, March 4th, the intersection of spirituality, reality, and intention. And if I click on that, it will take us to the day page for that. If we click here, that will take us to the second time that Shannon was on Humanity Rising. And so there she is in the day page. I was there too. And so was Peter and Bob and Gloria and all these people, other people that we are familiar with. And there's this funny guy. And I would assume that that's Mrs. Garrison. Is that correct? Sneaking in there in the background. Can you, maybe I can make it bigger. Who are we seeing there behind the candle?
Yeah, that's Claire. Yes.
That's your wife? Okay, thank you. Now, all right. Well, this is the front main page for OtherNetworks, and on that page, it has a button, a link. If you want to put something in OtherNetworks, you can click here, and a survey will come up, and you can fill out the survey, and that material will be copied and pasted by me into OtherNetworks, and so that's what happens. We also have relationships with two other websites that I control. One is called Wikidelphia, and the other one is Community Magic. Community Magic is where I keep a number of things that have to do with networking and my passion for how do people connect with each other. And this one would take us to a list of worldwide pages on Wikidelphia. Over here is a number of different things that will let me do things, and everybody who gets to use this gets to see these. And we have a way of looking at the categories of OtherNetworks. And one of them is called About. There's a by and by, which are a little harder to explain, but something does something. It is something. It happens so frequently. It makes something, it's mine, something I own. It's recommended by, it sells something, it serves certain people, it teaches something, it uses certain resources, and where means where it's located or where it serves the world. So a lot of things are where worldwide on OtherNetworks because it's really worldwide stuff that we're collecting. When I go back to Our Heart Gardens, and see the collection of categories that we have. It's fairly elaborate. The reason it's so elaborate is because there's more than one way to find something. There's more than one way to describe something. There's lots of ways. So with this system, it's by something, it does something, it is something, is issue. It has issue, community. There's a lot of people, there's 217 issues in other networks. Community agriculture. Oh, well, let's see what's there. There's only 3. So we have community garden and an idea. It's I have special pages where I put things that I like. So if I make an idea page for community agriculture, it's here. And then here's our Heart Gardens. Let's see what community garden is. I'm not even clear. Community garden, Wikipedia article. Oh, this is a Wikipedia article about community garden. So, and these would take us back to the things we already saw. Issue gardening would bring us that same page, and Eco-Conscious Music Alliance, which is some people that I met at World Unity Week last year, I think, and community agriculture, Katie and our Heart Gardens under the issue gardening. If we go back to, let's see what Katie is. So part of the thing about this is it lets you wander around and explore the digital universe that's covered by other networks. So in the digital universe of other networks is a issue called gardening. And one of the things that comes up is this person, Katie Selegnano, who is the founder of Katie's Crops, and had an appearance on Humanity Rising on Monday, March 29th. If I click here, it will take us to the day page for that episode, and we can see her, and we can see the episode itself, and we can see the after chat conversation. Let's see if we have a picture for that. Yes, we do. So here are the people that showed up for the after chat on day 214, March 29th, 2021. And we had a conversation that included this chat. So we can look through this. All the chats that we collect on other networks are searchable. So if you put somebody's name in, it's very possible that you'll be able to find when that person appeared in the chat, in the after chat. So I'd like to stop unless you want me to go deeper.
I think that's amazing, Stan.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
It's a revelation to me how many, actually it's not a revelation, I kind of knew, how many issues that our Heart Gardens touch on and address in our lives.
And we can't describe it by saying gardening.
No, we
We can't
can't.
describe
It
it by
doesn't
any other
cover it at
one
all.
word, because you're doing education, you're doing teaching, you're using volunteers. They're using is one of the categories, using volunteers, using what other kinds of resources that you can use. We can put all those words in.
I want to make sure that people understand that this idea is still in the formation stage. It has not yet been grounded except for in one location, and it is just a garden at this point. The full parameters of the concept have not yet been grounded, but we have another aspect of the idea here in the room, and that's Jim Garrison. Jim, would you like to tell us about what's going on for you and what Humanity Rising is doing?
Well, first of all, I want to join you, Shannon, in thanking Stan for what can only be called an extraordinary service of love, shall we call it, to take 505 sessions as of today and archive them, catalog them, make them accessible in multiple ways as he's done, purely as a service of love. It's been one of the most extraordinary and selfless acts of dedication I think I can ever remember. So Stan, I just want to acknowledge you and thank you for your wizardry. There's probably no other way to put it. And also to thank you, Shannon, for your, daily, day in and day out, folks, support and curation of the after session chat groups that we have at the conclusion of all of our Humanity Rising sessions. Let me just say, in the few minutes that I have, just something about the origins of Humanity Rising and what we're thinking about in terms of our next phase. We started, as Shannon indicated, on the 22nd of May. We didn't have really any game plan. All we knew is that we were all in lockdown as the pandemic was descending upon us. We were all in social distancing. Essentially, we were under martial law and had been for several years in a way that was sudden. We had no way to kind of prepare ourselves psychologically or emotionally or financially. All of a sudden, it was just happening. And so at Ubiquity, we were trying to figure out, where's the opportunity in this crisis? That's what I always ask myself. Where's the opportunity here? Because the crisis can overwhelm and all kinds of bad emotions and so forth begin to emerge in your psyche and soul. So just by temperament, I'm more of an opportunities guy. So one thing came to another, and we realized that what we could do is begin to organize a daily free broadcast on Zoom where people all over the world would be invited to share their experiences of the pandemic and their fears, their concerns, their hopes, their aspirations. And it turned into a tsunami. Next thing we knew, we had tens of thousands of people who signed up in over 130 countries. We had hundreds, I think we're past 350 organizations who volunteered to co-sponsor. And all of a sudden, it began to consume me and our staff at Ubiquity. And we're also universities, so we had to begin to marshal our time. And to make a long story very, very short, we've had well over 2 years now of some of the most extraordinary people and range of issues and concerns that I personally have ever experienced. I've never had an experience of day in and day out experiencing and being enriched by and blessed by human goodness. There's a lot of it out there. And it never makes it in the news, almost never, but it is an extraordinary thing. So just to conclude my opening remarks, where we're now headed, just given the momentum of what's been developing completely organically and completely naturally, is what we're calling the Humanity Rising Network. So just imagine this for a moment. Imagine instead of just sort of my little 90 minutes every day, sometimes 2 hours a day, let's call it 2 hours. We started to build other channels, and the channels were populated and convened by, let's say, Unity Week, which represents hundreds of organizations. That's a channel. Imagine a youth channel with youth on youth. There's thousands of youth organizations around the world. There's stuff on climate change. There's material on mental health issues as the pandemic unfolds, endangered species. So imagine something like a CNN for progressives. Imagine a counterpart to Fox News that instead of fomenting racism, xenophobia, fear, hatred, and divisiveness in a cynical way, you had thousands of organizations coming together on another broadcast network, but it would be doing something unique in the history of broadcast, and that is linking itself to educational content and educational events, so that as people were learning in real time, They could interact in real time, and they could access educational content that would empower them and motivate them to engage in collaborative action. If we could pull that off, I personally can't think of anything more potentially powerful to bring the movement together, because the bane of the progressive movement has always been we're more competitive than collaborative. And something like Humanity Rising Network allows hundreds already. We have hundreds of organizations working with us completely naturally. And everybody is doing it because it serves their self-interest.
Sure.
Everybody wants to get broadcasted out there in the global community. We can do this. And then we link to their content for learning and content for action, and everybody wins because everybody comes together in the spirit of radical collaboration. So that's where it's going. And I want to acknowledge Stan and Shannon as integral parts of this ongoing. Charles, you're on many days. We should talk. I'll send you some material, and would invite all of you listening to think about how you can come together and what you would like to broadcast and what you would like to educate around. So that's the future of Humanity Rising as we evolve into a Humanity Rising network.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jim. I see Charles wants to rebuttal on that. Come on in.
Well, I do. Jim, thank you for the amazing resources that you've made available. I don't think you could possibly fully comprehend what happens in the chat. Well, I guess you do in the chat because I see you commenting on our activity in the chat. But at least 2 of the convergence rooms on World Unity Week are sponsored by, delivering content by people who made connections in AfterChat. Now, we couldn't have found AfterChat without Stanley and Shannon keeping him straight and reminding him to click record, and we wouldn't have had AfterChat if it hadn't have been for Humanity Rising. But I can see the helpfulness channel, the Successful Living channel,
Yeah, exactly.
the Steward Airship channel. I'm very excited about the whole concept of Humanity Rising Network, and I look forward to chatting further. John Raymer was really excited when we had a conversation. He tipped me off a little bit to where you were going, and then there's a lot of stuff happening in the after chat, and I've just got to honor Shannon. My background is disaster relief, community and economic development, raised a few $1 million in grants and contracts and donations. She's in at least a dozen different categories for grants and program related investments. She just needs to get focused a little bit and have someplace like, you know, OtherNetworks and AfterChat to share it. So Stanley, thank you for creating the opportunity. Thank you, Jim.
Oh, Charles, thank you for pulling it all together. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. You know, Stan's network that connects networks and Jim's vision of sharing news, knowledge, and wisdom are a beginning. Another beginning is the garden you see behind me. I helped to put the first seeds in the ground 7 years ago. Since then, it has provided tons of food to volunteers and helpful organizations like the local food bank. The value of fresh food for free was abundantly clear, so funds were found to hire a farm manager and an assistant. Kevin and Caitlin have created a viable farm on donated land, and people come to enjoy being part of a successful garden run by capable people and learn about all of the wonderful different foods they get to take home. It's thanks to a local business, Butler RV and Auto Center, that this farm exists. Along with gardens, business and government are an intrinsic part of our human existence. Bob Chapman was a recent guest of Humanity Rising. He was unable to join us today, but I want to tell you a little about him. Bob's a businessman who wrote a book called Everybody Matters: The Extraordinary Power of Caring for Your People Like Family. I love that he brings that philosophy to business. His family-owned company, Barry Waymiller, makes boxes and containers, things we'll always need. And he told us, he's also creating happy employees. When the systems that fill the grocery stores fall apart, where will Bob's happy employees get food? As happy as they are, their families still need to eat. We all need to eat. According to the SDG Knowledge Hub, and I'll put the link to that in later, agriculture accounts for around 70% of global water use and 30% of greenhouse gas emissions. Food is a link to all SDGs, and changing how we feed our families will make a huge difference. Another statistic to be aware of is depression and anxiety. How are we doing on time? Not bad. I want to talk about that because it's a huge factor in today's society. I'll leave that depressing subject to the end, and I'm happy to stay on if anyone wants to hear more.
I might have something to say about Jim's capacity for work and persistence. And it's Jim's doing the Humanity Rising every day. At first, it was every day for 2 hours, even Saturdays and Sundays. And I was very relieved when Saturdays and Sundays were left off after the third month. And we got a chance to do other things than that every day. But the amazing thing that has come into my understanding is Jim's Rolodex. Holy Moses, almost all the people for the first year of Humanity Rising were people that Jim already knew. And I love the story of Jim having driven Gorbachev around the United States at one point after the Cold War. And yeah, it's such an honor to be able to be of some help. So yes, I'm dedicated. But why? Because the leader of this process is worth supporting, and I really thank you,
Stan. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Here we are at World Unity Week, and I want to weave the OhGs concept into the SDGs because they pertain to the whole world. The Food Systems Summit of 2021, put on by United Nations, made a goal for each SDGs. And I was disappointed by their goals because all their goals are geared to the system as it is, with GDP and income being the metrics of sustainability. But sustainability isn't enough. We need to embody a new paradigm of regeneration, celebration, and abundance. I want to offer you a link to an article of theirs. Fixing food systems is crucial for meeting SDGs. And so I'm just going to put that in. Yeah. And I also want to, and I will, put a link to my document that I created that I want to share with you. As we go through these SDGs, I'm just going to talk about my response as opposed to what they say. I'm going to put the link to the document in the chat so that you can see how they contrast. The SDG 1 has to do with poverty, and rather than creating jobs that require people to conform, OhG's drop-in system allows people to come when they're available. Food is at their fingertips. People are encouraged to be healthy. The SDG 2 is regarding hunger, and rebuilding existing systems creates more of what we don't want. Producing our own food in small locations, we're more able to respond to illness and to help others. Bringing our crops under cover allows us to control the climate they grow in. SDG 3 is good health and well-being. And food sovereignty is powerful medicine. Gardens have been part of most of our lives, and when done together, it's easy work, and it's fun too. Food systems of today, even if improved to be sustainable, have little hope of improving life expectancy or mental health. Quality education. This is one of my favorites, and Jim, I'm sure of yours as well. While we work, prepare food, and eat together, we share stories of our lives, our interests and our desires, inspiring others. Not only children, but adults of all ages can access the wisdom of the world through the network of our Heart Garden or of other networks and Humanity Rising. Gender equality. When everybody works together on tasks they're suited for or learning, we get to know each other. Caring for each other, we learn to respect each other, especially with the help of role models, elders, and teachers. Joining together to mind the kids, mothers are encouraged to engage in work they desire to do. And sometimes it's minding the kids. Clean water and sanitation. Massive reduction of water usage and sanitation are possible through sheltering crops and alternative growing practices. Bulrushes are a water plant not currently cultivated, yet they purify water. And if they're too mature to eat, you can weave them into bags to replace the plastic ones. Affordable and clean energy. Gathering together, we have more power. POP is the power of people. When we learn to tap this resource, we will all sleep better, using the dark hours as the gift they are. Decent work and economic growth. This one just hit a lot of buttons for me. OhGs does not subscribe to GDP metrics. Every job that needs doing should be considered decent, and those who do them honored for the contribution they make. Food earned in our Heart Gardens allows a new system to emerge that supports the well-being of all people outside the exchange of money. Industry, innovation, and infrastructure, SDG 9. In OhGs, creating abundant food for our families and our communities reduces the need for infrastructure. There will always be truckers and the roads that connect us, and people are needed to service those systems. And it's not enough. Innovation is necessary, and when we're not worried about feeding our families, we are much more imaginative. Just two more, the SDG 10, reduced inequality. When people's food costs are reduced, income becomes less important. When the metrics of measurement become the tyrant, change is needed. A happy life should not be measured by money. And the last one is sustainable cities and communities, and it's my favorite. This is exactly the problem that OhGs addresses, helping the urban poor to sustain themselves, bringing the haves in with the have-nots so all are fed will enable all to get to know each other and to help each other and themselves. OhGs is the sustainable food system they are searching for. OhGs needs the system to acknowledge and empower us in our communities to create OhGs, places where we grow healthy together. I'm going to invite people to have an opportunity to ask questions. I've got more if you want more, but I want to leave space for you to ask questions if you like. And if not, I will continue because I can do that. I have the gift of the gab, as my mom used to say. Okay. Of course, now I've
You
lost.
could offer the people that have decided to come to say hello.
Well, Carol Sue, she is here. Hello, my dear.
Hello. Thank you, everybody. I have been trying to get in since 11:56, so I thank God for Charles, because I sent him an email and he sent me the link.
Oh, wow.
And so I don't know how everybody found you. I went because I had a link that was sent to me, and I went to Facebook. It was a Facebook link. Then I went to Unity. I went to World Unity and went to their schedule. Didn't see you on the schedule. So this was a miracle. That's how I was so determined to get here, Shannon.
I am so grateful to see your lovely face. I'm so glad indeed. And I kind of knew that there might be something going on. And what I realized is that there's 99 days of peace going on. And these programs will be re-aired and able for people to drop in and have a look at them. Heather, I know
I just want to say, between trying to get into Charles and you this morning, it was a little disturbing my peace.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well said. Oh.
Well, I would just like to say that I was honored to be able to be of helpfulness as a student of Mr. and Miss Helpfulness, Inc. And I've got to go prepare for Dr. Cobb's event, but bless you all. Jim,
Can you make sure that I have a link for that one? I do not want to miss it.
Yes, ma'am. Whatever you say.
And
Right.
you're a chip off the old block, Charles. You are Mr. Helpful yourself.
Yes.
I would like to welcome Heather. Thank you so much. I think you had the link from the after chat earlier today, as we're in that room. So welcome, Heather.
Thank you, Shannon. It's good to be with you all from Vancouver, Washington, not Canada. The original Vancouver, not the knockoff Vancouver.
It is way bigger than you.
So, I've been on a parallel pathway with you, Shannon, since I graduated from a small Quaker college in Richmond, Indiana in 1971 and started teaching Head Start in rural America. And as the Head Start teacher, one of my parent education function was to teach nutrition. I had no training in nutrition, but so I had to teach myself while I was teaching the parents. I learned in my very first trip to the grocery store with 4 Head Start moms and their food stamps in a small agriculture community in southwestern Ohio, that poor people can't buy nourishment with food stamps. They can buy calories that will allow them to put their kids to bed at night with their stomachs not complaining. And there was a moment in the grocery store that day where I'm calculating the fresh produce and all the nourishment I'm trying to help these women learn how to buy. And they saw the light bulb go on in my head when I realized that what they had to spend with their food stamps was not going to buy them good food. And these 4 women were very kind to me. They saw the little white girl right out of college doing her job, have an epiphany in the grocery store, a little A&P grocery store in a small country town. And I looked at the food stamps and I did my mental math, and then I looked up and looked at them. And they all said, "So Heather," this is almost a direct quote, "So Heather, did you think we were stupid?" And that opened up a conversation about what their life experience was like trying to provide good food for their kids. So that was my first awakening moment around the importance of food and food for poor people. As I shared earlier in the after chat from this morning, I ran that classroom as a democracy, even though everybody told me, including the early childhood professional educators, that young children can't manage their own learning. So I forgot where I was going with that.
Happens.
So I taught Head Start for 3 years in low-income communities, and then out of work and with no money, I ended up on a farm in Wisconsin with some friends who were working for a organic farming and gardening magazine and mail order business for hard to find tools. So I ended up sweeping the floors and stocking the shelves as my first job. Then I ended up as managing editor of that magazine, Countryside and Small Stock Journal. And from there, I met all kinds of interesting people across the United States working on local agriculture, as it's called now, and regenerative or agroecology, as it's called now. Back then, it was organic gardening and farming and appropriate technology. And one day I was asked to be a presenter at an invitation-only conference in the Jimmy Carter White House to talk about food and agriculture. They were looking for someone who could speak to organic farming and a female. So I had made the acquaintance of the Institute for Local Self-Reliance back in that day. And so I got picked to attend this conference as a presenter because they could check 2 boxes in the diversity list. And that led to running an agriculture research project in the Carter administration for the National Rural Center, where we looked at the impact of farm policy on rural communities and the structure of agriculture. So that's how I got launched in the 70s. Today, I'm working with my local chapter of the League of United Latin American Citizens. We're working with our county government that has a farm, owns a farm property in an urban area now, given to the county 150 years ago as a poor farm. And it's still in farming, sort of, kind of. The county manages it as a park. But through LUAC and what the program we've created called LUAC Grows, we now have a contract with the county for 10 acres over 5 years to create an incubator farm, which will very much resemble the farm that you built, Shannon. So it just tickles me. I'm delighted that our paths have crossed through Humanity Rising, because Jim's programs have really been lifting me up in these times of deep brokenheartedness. And it helps me to realize that if it's taken me 50 years to meet you, there must be like a whole universe of other people, alive and well and full of joy and helpfulness and kindness on the planet doing similar work. And that we are not alone, and that I can
you can relax.
I can trust that the universe has a benevolent plan that we're all part of. And I may not live to see the fruition of it and the newly evolved humans, as Irvin Laszlo likes to talk about, the new humans. But I'm glad to be with this tribe of new humans.
Absolutely. And we're so glad to have you a part of us. I look forward to learning more about you. Was there anything that really rang bells for you in the Our Heart Gardens idea?
Only that if you've had that idea and I've had that idea, this is kind of reiterating what I just said. There are many others who are having this idea. It's coming up through the collective consciousness. And so, energetic connections will be made. Well, we are already making them, or we wouldn't be in this room together right now. And I'm just going to trust that. It helps me to trust the universe that despite the appearance of things, all is well and all will be well.
Yes, absolutely. I have faith in the same way. Because the job was obviously so much bigger than me. I knew that something had to happen that was, community magic. There you go. What are you showing us, Stan?
Quote from the gentleman Paulo Coelho.
Yeah.
There's the title of his book is one word. But this is a sentiment that I've long held. When you want something, the whole universe conspires to help you.
Yeah.
It is true. And Stan, thank you for bringing that poet into the room, because our little LULAC Grows project made an 11-minute film that we call A Love Letter to the Land in Clark County. And it's about what's going on here in Clark County in food and farming. I'll post it in the chat for anybody who wants to download it and watch it later, because it ends with a poem by that exact same poet, which is why I'm inspired to share our little film. So I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you very much. I look forward to having a look at that. I would like to introduce the other person in the room, who is my very best girlfriend. She and I have learned tarot together, and we spend Tuesday evenings together from 6 to 8 in Gaia's Zoom room. I've posted that in the chat at TheConversation.cc. And Joan and I have realized that part of the benefit of coming together in community is self-development, and using the tools that have been created through history. We come up with astrology and numerology and tarot and human design and gene keys and all of these wonderful things. And I've created a method of a document that holds a whole bunch of links that we can do together in a workshop. And I'm looking forward. Joan, say hello.
Unmute.
Hello. I'm happy to be here, of course, because Shannon is the person that I have the greatest honor to spend time with and to help and to work with. And I wouldn't want to be anywhere else but here.
Oh, Joan, you just, you light me up, girl. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And Carol Sue, I see your hand up.
I
There.
have a quick question of Heather, because I actually just went to try and friend you and you have 2 things there. Which one is it?
It's the one that shows me with my 3 sons. Do you see that picture?
Well, I see one with somebody else. I didn't realize there were 3 of you. I just thought it was one. Let me look real closely.
It's the one associated with
Oh, there are more. I see my 3 sons. Gotcha.
my 3 sons. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Because,
lucky.
I'm actually from Lake Oswego,
Oh my gosh.
and my husband is actually in Centralia, Washington. We have a house up there that he lives in,
Oh wow.
and he's there right now, actually.
Well, how's
and,
neighbor?
But I am in Belize.
Lucky you.
Yeah. So nice to meet you. I just am amazed at everything you've done, and I thought we should connect.
Thank you. Let's do that. I'll put my email address in the chat.
Okay, great.
That's wonderful. I would have liked very much to go into and I still could.
Well,
The
running out of time.
I know, and I just want to say that the part that I wanted to talk about that I left for last is the anxiety and depression that has taken our world by a storm. Our youth, Jim, you had a whole week on the global youth mental health issue. And it hit me where I live, because I am one of those statistics. My life fell apart 10 years ago. And because of the medications that I was on, I was over-medicated for a diagnosis that was not mine. And so I absolutely, this is important to me. And I can see there's a couple of people in the document now. You'll see at the bottom of that table that I go into the highest rates of depression are in the Ukraine. That's no surprise. The United States has 5.9%. And looking at this, you have to remember that while measurement is difficult due to varying abilities of society to respond and report, it's clear that the more advanced the culture, the more depressed people get, and the less connected people are to each other and the natural world. People are lonely, people. And so we need to come together. Zoom helps, but the people on Zoom can't feed you if you're in need. They can't hug you if you are crying. And so, you know, in our heart gardens, this is the way that I have found that we need to respond to this crisis that is within our lives.
And on that, Shannon, I know we're out of time, so I just want to let you know, we need to talk privately about this issue, because it is my goal to get people off the psychotropic drugs. And I do have a solution, and it's very hard to get it out there when you're going against big pharma, because a lot of this depression was planned so they could do these designer drugs, and they planned it in Puerto Rico in the 60s.
There's been
I know
lot
more about this than you can imagine. You know.
well, we got things to talk about.
Absolutely.
And I love that. I love that. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming and being a part of my reality. You know, they say that there's an African saying, without you, or with you, I am. Because of you, I am. And so I am complete because you are here and you've heard me. And thank you so much. And I thank Stan very much for supporting this. And Jim, thank you so much for creating the inspiration that created the vehicle that we are going forward in together. Bless
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shannon.
It was a joy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.